You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. We are talking to Barbara Monteiro, who is the founder and president of Monteiro Company, a publicity firm. She started the firm about 15 years ago as a one-woman, one-office operation, which is now a very prominent Manhattan-based PR firm. Before that, she was with some of the major publishers, HarperCollins, Free Press, Wiley. Anyway, Barbara, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I'd be delighted to tell you. We try to help authors penetrate the noise that is out in the media world so that people become aware not only of their book, but also of the passion that they have that helped them write the book. And I think I would say that my job is to advise experts so that they can be heard and they don't get lost in, the gossip and the, the political headlines that make the news, or Rupert Murdoch's newspaper closing. There's top of the news that's out there, but most of my authors they're nonfiction, and they have expertise that they would really like to have people know so they can help themselves in their own lives. And so that's our job here, is to try to get some national attention, especially for our authors.
So if an author is working on, let's say, a nonfiction book and wants to make your job as easy as possible, meaning he or she wants to prepare something or get himself ready so that when it comes to you, you'll say, wow, this is really going to be not easy, but this will be a very doable project. What would you recommend to an author?
So here are a couple of questions that an author should reflect upon before they spend their hard-earned money on a firm like mine. The first question is, why did they write this book? What do they really want to have happen once the book is in the bookstore, on Amazon? What is the purpose of this book? Because I'm sure it would be very hard for anyone. We have one author who wrote her book 7 times, and they're now pitching that book out, and she's been a CEO. She has a commercial airline pilot's certificate. Excuse me, she's very accomplished. There's only 850 people in the United States and 850 women in the United States that have this kind of airplane license, and yet it took her all these, 2 years to write the book. And so when she comes to us, the first question is, why did you write this? Why do we need another book on leadership? What is it that's different about you that's going to make people interested and actually spend money to buy the book? And then the next thing we like the author to think about is, what is their target market? I usually say to authors, envision a target, and you're going to be, it's archery, and you're going to try to get that arrow right in the center, and then a little bit further out, and then a little bit further out. So we do a lot of political books, economic books, business books. So we think about, okay, let's say, you mentioned that you're going to be working on a book that has to do with chess. Okay, so let's just take chess as an example. So what's the immediate target market? Okay, people who play chess, of course, who want to be better, but also parents of children who want to learn how to play chess, and then, of course, teachers. So that's your very small, that's the heart of the target. But then you move out from that and you think about, what other kinds of strategy people are interested in and that they might use, some of the techniques from chess in this strategy, people who might be interested in those kinds of puzzles, and you keep moving out from that central part of your target.
So is it up to the author to try to come up with these targets? Is that what he should be thinking about?
Well, I think the author should think about who's going to spend money on this book. Who's going to buy this book, not just, oh, I love this idea. Yes, the author has to be passionate and an advocate. The ones who succeed are the ones that are an advocate for their ideas. We handle Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize laureate and op-ed columnist for the New York Times, and he really has an ambition, a drive to try to get people to wake up, to see what's really happening in the economy and to take some action. He's been especially writing about the debt ceiling that is preoccupying the White House today. Obama is going to be giving a press conference, if he hasn't already done so. It was scheduled for this morning. So Mr. Krugman is one of the top economists in the world, but what will drive his book is the way he writes and his passion for getting people to see that if we keep going down the same path, our economy isn't going to get any better. And so he has a motivation behind it. I think it is important to think about your targets. We have another business author who's quite well known in the U.S., Bill George, and he had a bestseller about 5 years ago called True North, which is about leadership and how to be an authentic leader. You have to come at this not just from a cerebral vantage point, but you have to see in your own life what stumbling blocks you had and how you learned from that and how that reframed how you're going to lead people in your organization. Well, he has a new book now that is also connected to his life, and he wants to help people by establishing small groups where they can get support. He's done this with his MBA students at Harvard, and this is not an easy book to sell. We're just grappling with this now, but there is a need. And I guess the author has to think about who has this need and that the book is going to answer, and maybe take them even beyond where they are.
Okay, we are talking to Barbara Monteiro, who is the founder and president of Monteiro Co, a publicity company for books, and she's been talking about how authors have to develop their own passion for, or figure out who are the people who are going to be most likely to want to buy the book. So today there's been a huge shift in the way that the publishing market is working. Certainly anyone can, in fact, today publish a book, and it's becoming more popular. And then they do their own PR, which is something that they would do on the Internet usually. Is the market actually moving that way, or is that just a new branch of a traditional tree which will remain planted where it is now?
I think that it remains to be seen how this is going to work out, but since I believe probably everyone who reads and who likes literature has a book in them. And so if all of us, however millions of us there are who feel this way, write a book and get it produced either as an e-book or a paper book, there's going to be a lot of people scrambling all over the Internet. Now, there was a story recently about a mystery writer who decided not to go, not a famous person, decided to go on his own, and he sold over 100,000 books on the Internet. But it wasn't his first book. He had a following, and he did not work while he did this. If you're going to work on the Internet, you have to be on this every day. You have to be scheduling tweets. You have to be thinking of blogs. You have to be interacting. This is not something you can do, 10 minutes in the evening after you have a full-time job.
Is that something that a PR person does for you?
What we do, well, you could. There are firms, let me back up a second. There are firms that only do social media, but let me explain that what we do, we try to do some of both. We usually advise, and the author should be in their own voice putting out the Twitter, being involved with Facebook, because people don't want to be dealing with something that's inauthentic. They want to know the person. But what we do, I wanted to explain, is that we try to get a big national hit. We just worked with an environmental activist named Lester Brown. He's very well known in his sphere. He had just done a Channel 13, a PBS special here. And he had information about Egypt and how, you might have heard over the weekend that there is now more disruption going on in Egypt, and they have a problem because they are one of the biggest countries to import grain, and they have a bread subsidy so that people in Egypt expect to have the government supply bread. And so this is going to become a problem because we have a drought coming up and in Africa, and Lester Brown had some information that wasn't commonly known. We worked with him. He did a draft of an article, and I helped with another draft, and it was about 3 or 4 drafts, and it appeared in the New York Times op-ed page with a piece of artwork. That is golden. You can spend all day on the internet for weeks, and you might get some good information, but if you can get a piece in the New York Times op-ed page...
Does that actually lead to sales of your book?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And I would say some of the other things, what we do is we help you refine what your platform is, meaning we help you think through the marketing process, and we write the press materials in such a way that they can be picked up by traditional media and bloggers. We also try to play things into the news. We had a book that was being published, and the publisher couldn't get any press for it, and it was about also the economy and how companies in America shouldn't be giving up. They could be bringing jobs back to the U.S., and we pegged the book to the jobs numbers that come out the first week of every month. And the author got on NPR. He went on Bloomberg Television. It ended up being in Fortune magazine. And these kinds of big hits still make a tremendous difference. If you can get a major hit, BBC is important. If you can get something in print, it could be a magazine, it could be a newspaper. These things also get tweeted around, and so it's part of being connected. I am all for social media, but I just don't want to sell short traditional PR.
Okay.
And another thing, I know you want to ask me a question, but another thing is giving speeches. That's very important for authors.
Okay, listen, Barbara, actually, we've been talking to Barbara Monteiro, who is the president of Monteiro Co., which is a PR firm that's specializing in authors and in writers. It's, in fact, been very enlightening, and unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but there's a lot more questions that I have, but I bet a lot of them might be answered on your website. Could you just tell people how they could learn a little bit more about what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. The website is www.monteiroandco.com, which is MONTEIROANDCO.com. And if you can't find it for some reason, you could Google Paul Krugman and book PR, and I'm pretty sure you would find me that way as well.
Okay. Barbara, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. It was a delight to talk to you, and I encourage all the authors out there to hunker down, finish their book, and then start to think about marketing.
Great. Thanks again.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.